Geek Myths, a novel about life, love, and the pursuit of sonic screwdrivers. Available in paperback and Kindle edition from Amazon.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. Another attempt at recording this particular one because my battery ran out. And you thought, you know what, I'll just do it all again. So I may end up repeating myself, thinking I'm not repeating myself. And there we go. This is reviewing number 33 in the Big Finish main/monthly range, Neverland, released in July 2002. It's number 4 in my series of 2020 Houndsight. And there's been quite a few nice releases in between our last one, which was Bloodtide, and this rather magical release. Okay, so what we've got in between Bloodtide, which was release number 22, was, well, let's start at 23. Project Twilight. Cavan Scott and Mark Wright. You've got the Sixth Doctor, but this is more importantly, you've got Nimrod, great villain, really should come back, and the Forge, which is a sort of proto-unit, no, proto-Torchwood. And yeah, that would be a great little crossover. Followed by Eye of Scorpion. This is one that introduces RMM and gives us a lovely Fifth Doctor and Peri combo. Those two are brilliant together. Absolutely really miss RMM as a character and as an ongoing, well, just companion. Just worked so well. The two women together in the TARDIS was great. Called It, another story that has a massive effect later on with the storylines with the whole Seventh Doctor and Klein and all of that business. It all starts here very early on. And then you've got Primeval, which is the one that I always get mixed up with the story I reviewed second. No, that's a lie. With the story I reviewed, Land of the Dead. Always get those two mixed up. And then there's a couple of really good corkers. The One Doctor, which if you've not heard, I so recommend you go and get. Christopher Biggins as a conman pretending to be the Sixth Doctor, taking on the Sixth Doctor. Terribly badly dressed, and it just is great. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it is purely a Doctor Who story. You can't say anything else about it not being a Doctor Who story. And then you've got Invaders from Mars by Mark Gatiss. This is where the storyline for Charlie and the Doctor is starting to diverge from established historical facts. Again, written as a bit of a comedy, and it's weird having them two back to back, but it is working. Because it's Charlie, some people at this point are now just buying the Eighth Doctor storylines because they're just going, this is where our new Doctor Who is. And I can't afford these CDs, so I'm just going to buy the Eighth Doctor. I'm pretty sure that was reflected in the sales. Because after Invaders of Mars, in February, you've got that popular Christmas one, Chimes of Midnight. Everyone thinks Chimes of Midnight is one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, and people just love it. I quite like it. I do have more preferred storylines, but everyone loves Chimes of Midnight. If you're going to introduce Big Finish to someone, this is what they need, and especially considering how cheap it is these days. It's so beloved that it was released on vinyl. Of course, you've got the building of the scary Charlie storylines, which then takes us to Seasons of Fear. That's Paul Cannell and Carolyn Simcox, which brings back a character I never thought I'd ever see. It brings back the Naimon. Now, on audio, the Naimon do work a hell of a lot better than they ever did on TV. Time moves on with Embrace the Darkness. Again, Eighth Doctor, Charlie. Everyone's loving them. Time of the Daleks, Eighth Doctor, Charlie. Because we're building up, ever so slowly, ever so deliberately, to this end of season extravaganza that is Neverland. Now, given the most recent documentaries with a similar title to Neverland, it may have been called something different these days, but that has a whole Peter Pan feel, and we're going to stick to it. So what's it all about? Here's the synopsis. The web of time is stretched to breaking. History is leaking like a sieve. In the Citadel of Gallifrey, the Time Lords fear the end of everything that is, everything that was, everything that will be. The Doctor holds the Time Lords' only hope, but exactly what lengths will the Celestial Intervention Agency go in their efforts to retrieve something important from within the TARDIS? What has caused Imperiatrix Romanadvoratrelundar to declare war on the rest of creation? And can an old nursery rhyme about a monster called Zagreus really be coming true? The answers can be found outside the bounds of the universe itself, in a place that history forgot, in the wastelands of eternity, in the Neverland. Now, I loved this story. I remember it being distinctly loved by everyone. The problem is, I know what comes next. After, 18, 17 years looking back, I know where this goes. It ends up in the Divergent universe. And I don't just mean Divergent in the sense that the BBC books were heading in one direction with the Eighth Doctor, and Big Finish were heading in another, and the comic books were heading in yet another. 3 very different parallel universes. No. At the end of this story, and I'm so pleased I can talk about this, something happens that ends up with the Eighth Doctor wandering around a universe, a bit like A-Space, a sort of sub-other universe that has no concept of time. Except they do have a concept of duration, because events happen, and then things happen after them because of the events that happened in the first place. Cause and effect still kind of works quite a lot in this universe, but they still have no concept of time, and yet there is of course a massive clock at some point, but that's another storyline. I didn't like this Divergent universe that they ended up in. Imagine having a fabulous meal, a great main course, but knowing in the back of your head that the pudding is burnt, or it's just something that you don't enjoy yourself. It's a creme brulee. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan. I know other people might like it. Other people might think it's their greatest pudding of all times. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just not for me. And I know what comes next. I know that after this rip-roaring adventure, you get that. And that's how I've always felt about this story. But it gets slightly worse, because when you compare it with the stories that came later, and, admittedly, with the memory cheating after all these years, I thought it actually had Rassilon in it. Now, whether it has or not, that's kind of a spoiler. But I was convinced, because Don Warrington was the greatest of all of the Rassilons. His performance is always good. He has the voice of velvet wrapped in gravel, or something. He can always produce great lines, and say them with such passion and believability, which is a great trick for sci-fi. But the storyline is a lot weaker on examination. When you're travelling along and you're thinking, oh, Charlie's being zapped in order to create a doorway into another universe. Oh, that's quite scary. Oh, look at the other universe. It's all folding in on itself. Describe the universe, describe the walls. And oh, Romana's in this and it's getting some great lines and she's really cool. Oh, and she's doing some comedy. And oh, why does nobody give Lala Ward more comedy to do? Because she can pull off some great stuff. She's so dry. All of that is what's happening when you're watching it. When you're letting it wash over you, you're having a lovely time. But it just doesn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me this time. Now, there is an argument that because you're reviewing things, what you're actually doing is you're bringing your baggage of your own personal life into things. Now, things aren't going brilliantly at the moment for me. So perhaps that's another reason why I'm not enjoying these half as much as I thought I would. Well, I wouldn't say half, just it's taken the edge off, shall we say. So perhaps that is a reflection of me onto the work. At what point does the work become more important than the person listening to it? I suppose always, and never, depending on your argument. This is a massive psychological issue for another time. What I'm saying is that because I was experiencing modern Gallifrey storylines, and I know about the Time War, and I know what happens to Rassilon, this was just me listening to this story going, well, how does that fit? How does that work? How does that continue on? How can I make that work? How is my headcanon working? And I shouldn't be thinking those things, because that's what happens to really bad Doctor Who fans. The people who sit at convention go, when you landed on planet X14, clearly there was 2 moons when there should have been 3. And all of that. That's the kind of fan I was becoming. Bad fan. Yes, I need to question things. That's fine. That's part of narrative. That's part of the learning process. But this storyline eventually puts things back, puts things in the right place, and lets things continue on their own way. The Zagreus thing. Oh, the Zagreus thing. The little rhyme they've invented about him. And, well, let's put it this way. If you were creating a metal band, like a proper old school, grungy, nasty, noisy thing, the sort of thing that kids who you don't talk to have got really orange little headsets or Walkmans listening to, and all you can hear is when you're on the bus, that metal. Right, look, I'm doing the little devil sign with the ears. Metal, yeah? Call your band Zagreus. It's just obvious. It's just there. It's in front of you. You don't need to do anything else. It's a great name. You'd have a brilliant logo. It would look a bit like the sign on the side of the symbols. But Zagreus, oh, it'd be great. Right, enough rambling, enough pointless chat. I do like this story. I sound like I don't. I remember adoring it at the time. Oh, it was so good. We'd invested so much getting to this point, and the payoff was worth it. It's just what comes after it wasn't for me. The 8th Doctor, for me, becomes a little bit lacklustre all the way up to the point where he ends up re-entering the universe and going, "Hiya, Davros, not seen you for ages." Did you like my 8th Doctor impression? It takes a lot of work. But it's just not great. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't brilliant performances in the Divergent universe, because there are. There's some great and there's some very disturbing moments. Because you have to remember, Doctor Who on audio started becoming more and more disturbing as well. We can discuss that, and increasingly experimental, which is something I really have to discuss, especially next time. But not quite here yet. So, I'm going to play you the trailer. I'm going to let you experience for yourself what you feel like, because I feel like I've talked it down, and I shouldn't have, because this is an absolute high point of the range. And I should have said that earlier. So, here's the trailer. Listen for yourself. Decide for yourself. Don't let me tell you what to think. I know nothing. So until next time, when I'll probably be talking about Doctor Who, be seeing you.
Doctor Who. Neverland.
Doctor, of all the countless billions of people in the whole of space and time, why did it have to be you?
October the 5th, 1930. Airship R101 crashes in France. Humanian era, Earth, January the 30th, 1933. Adolf Hitler appointed Chancellor of Germany. Humanian era, Earth.
It has been a time beyond measure. Here, alone in the cold, adrift and aloof from my people, my home. Once, my name was hailed and feared in equal measure by friends and enemies alike.
Surely the Time Lord won't harm you, of all people.
On past form, I wouldn't like to bet on that.
Am I to assume that the agency has located the Doctor?
Madam President.
Where is he?
Drifting in the Action galaxy. Doubtless the Doctor will be twisting like a slithery nematode, but he shan't be wriggling off this hook this time.
I died. That's right, isn't it, Doctor? Burned in the wreck of an airship. Born on the day the Titanic sank, died on the R101. Poor, tragic little Charlotte Pollard. Her life snuffed out before it had even begun. That's how it is, isn't it, Doctor?
I am the Lord Rassilon. At last, my children, you have returned to me.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.